recording thing. Again, if you came on late, it is not recording you. It's just going to be recording me introducing the speaker and our speaker. And a friend back in New York gave me our speaker's name and number, and I spent just a little bit of time on the phone with him, and I'm excited to hear what Jack D from Baltimore, Maryland has to say tonight. So Jack, welcome.
Hi, thanks a lot, Tiffany. My name's Jack Devlin, and I'm an alcoholic. And everybody can hear me? We're all good? Yep, that's a bunch of waves. Cool, we're in there. So it's cool to be with you guys tonight. I'm just making my screen a little bigger and just trying to see how many little windows I can get in front of me to try and see who I'm hanging out with. Congrats to the anniversaries. Looks like we have a couple houses, possibly where there's a few people sitting around on couches. Yeah, throw your hands up. I see you. And yeah, good to see you guys. That makes me happy. Real quick, thank you guys for asking me to be here, and thanks for the opportunity to share with you about what's happened to me. I really believe that's my job tonight. I don't believe that there's any real script for that. I just believe that in a real honest way, I'm going to do my best to hopefully, if it's possible, adequately describe with words what's transpired in my life as a result of being beaten into a state of being willing to do a bunch of stuff I didn't want to do, and then getting to really feel the effects of that both in my life and in the lives of many others in a really, really rather fast time. So before I forget, my home group is called The Firing Line. We meet currently on Zoom every weekday at 6 p.m. We go word for word through the big book Monday through Thursday. And then Fridays at 6 p.m. we have an hour-long speaker who recaps as their topic all of the pages that were covered Monday through Thursday. It's an incredible group. It's been a wild ride for the last 6 months. It started with the lockdown, which is, and now the 22nd, in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks now, we will be meeting Tuesdays live in Baltimore at 7 p.m. And the format's going to stay the same, except we're only going to meet once a week, and the Zoom meeting is going to stay where it is. So it's been pretty, it's been a real gift. But my home group's The Firing Line, and my sobriety date is August 19th of 2012. And my first sobriety date was June 2nd of 2010. And the first time I came to AA was sometime in 2006. And all that says is that, alcoholism is more powerful than me on my own power. That's it. There were times throughout all those times where I wanted to stay sober. I needed to stay sober. I should have been sober. I didn't stay sober. I got sober and couldn't stay sober. I stayed sober and couldn't get sober again. I'm in and out. I'm untreated. I'm half treated. I'm, not treated. I just want to drink. I'm scared to tell people the truth. It's been an interesting road, and 8 years sober now. And again, the entirety of the 8 years, there has been more time where I have been off the beam and untreated than there has been on. The last 2 years has been very different than the first 6. And I'm really grateful for that. And so is the woman I'm married to now, and my family, and a lot of the guys that I'm close with now. I think that, and some of their families too, to be very honest, right? We get to be a part of that here, if we really help people really get better, if we really are able to allow a power to flow through us enough to impact other people's lives, their families look at people in AA like, what did you do? How is this possible? We wanted to help this kid forever. It's such a privilege to be here. It just really is. I'm a guy that I really didn't think I was going to make it, and there was a long time where I honestly believed I wouldn't live past 25. And I got sober again this time at 25, I really just, my life for a long time was spent in a lot of pain. And I've suffered from alcoholism for a very long time, Numbers wise, if you're older than me or younger than me, I'm not talking about time as far as age. I mean, the way that my experience in my life feels and is that I have suffered from alcoholism for a long time. You know, whatever that means to you is what that means to you, but that is clear to me. And to be able to be in a recovered state at all ever in the course of any day, week, month, or year is just something that I never thought was going to be real for me. I've heard people say I just felt like I was one of the broken toys. My buddy Matt's on here. He said that the other night. And it's true. I just always felt that way. And then I'm the guy that gets to AA in 2010, and what do? I don't make it. Like, I get a couple of years, but I can't even stay in AA. You know, it's like, man, you've made it. You've ruined everything. You can't do school. You get locked up. You can't do it family. You can't do girlfriends. You can't do driving. You're just driving into Jersey walls. You're driving into police cars. Like, I can't do anything, you know. Then I get to AA. Can't even do AA. You know, I mean, even whatever bandana Billy Boy can do AA, and I'm just sitting there like, I can't even do AA, you know. My life always felt like that. My life felt like that from the time I was really young, you know. So by the time I found a drink, I was stoked. You know, like I was a guy, I was ready to drink by the time I drank. We'll just put it that way, you know. And for that matter, for the time I found everything else that has given me any bit of relief from my mind, I have just like fallen in love with you and it and them and they and whatever you had. And if it was free, and I'll take 40 and we'll figure out what it is later and let's go. You know, like I was never a guy that woke up in the morning and said, I just feel really comfortable in my skin today. I'm just going to kind of relax for the evening, you know. Never been my experience until not that long ago. Just never, you know. It was like, what can we do to get somewhere other than where I am? You know, like I didn't know that that's what I was saying, but that's what my life was. And if you look at Alcoholics Anonymous and me for the first many years, that didn't change. You know, that didn't change. And I use anything, including meetings of AA, to avoid doing Alcoholics Anonymous, right? I will use anything to avoid really having to do the program, the process of the steps. The reality for me is that when I started drinking, I immediately really, really loved it. That is my story, you know. I can't tell anybody else's story, right? I'm just here to tell mine. And mine is that from day one, the first time that I ingested enough liquor to know that I drank liquor and get liquor drunk, I loved alcohol, period. You know, like it was Cuervo and Jack at the same time. I was like 13, hit me like a ton of bricks, almost fell downstairs, and it was incredible. You know, my friends vomited on each other that night, you know, right in front of me. I laughed, they laughed. It was wonderful, you know, and I never wanted to be a full-blown alcoholic, strung-out junkie. Never in a million years, you know. In fact, I've stood in front of mirrors and made pacts with myself. I've made pacts in the eyes of people I love to never become that guy. And that's exactly who I became. Because what happens is that when I start, this thing occurs inside of me that for many years I don't even know that I have, right? But I physically can't stop myself from continuing. That's a scary thing, you know, especially if you want to stop, you know, like if you have half a heart and half a brain, and like you actually kind of want at times to not, you know, be like whatever, drinking liquor and blowing cocaine in biology class or whatever, you know what I mean? Like you don't want to be that guy, but at the same time, like I am that guy. Who else am I like? What else am I gonna do? It's 10 a.m. on a Wednesday. You know, I'm 16, and see you later. You know, so for me, by the time I was 16, I'm in my first real institution. After my first outpatient, it's a 1.5 year long emotional growth boarding school in the woods of New Hampshire. Only problem with that program is that it was emotional growth and not spiritual growth. So what happened to me is I just got real thirsty. The whole time I talked about my emotions, I just really wanted to get drunk. And I learned a lot of stuff about myself. I just didn't have the power to apply any of it, which makes you feel again like a broken toy, like a complete idiot. All these kids are like, their lives are getting better. They're getting accepted to colleges, which I got, and then got kicked out within 6 weeks of getting there because I took a drink. And they're like getting better, and everything's cool, and they're getting happier. And the time that I'm at this school, learning about my emotions and processing groups and doing all kinds of great stuff, I left there with less friends than when I got there. So you get there and everyone's like, oh, you're new and it's cool, but I spent a year and a half there, and by the time there was a couple people left, all of whom I've had to make amends to now, that were like still friendly with me. But most people, I've become a totally different person. A year and a half without a drink and without the steps, watch out. Just leave the room. You're going to want to then. Just leave. But oh man, if you look at me at the wrong moment, I will do one of three things. I will literally leave the room. I will just leave the room because I have no idea what to do when you look me in my eyes. I will get so furious that I will do something to try to belittle you or bolster myself above you, or I will sit there so paralyzed in fear that I know the only thing that can solve that is a half a fifth of Jack. This is what happens to me. This is the first time I get acquainted with the sober condition. I don't know that at the time. I don't see that until years into this sobriety, really. I really had no idea that that's what was going on. I just thought I should be getting better because I was in group and I was doing good. And I'm the guy that put me in group, man. And I got them all. I'm lying about stuff that happened to me to try and get more sympathy. I'm telling the girls that my girlfriend never had a girlfriend, had stuff happen to her so we can all sympathize. I'm out of it, man. I'm just terrified. I'm just terrified, driven by fear. Put me in a room with 16 strangers. I'm going to lie to them to get them to like me so that we may be able to have a conversation, so maybe I can go to sleep that night not feeling the way that I've felt my entire life, which is that if 19 things were different, my life would finally fit me, but that never worked out. And I've gotten like 16, 17, 18 out of 19 and still failed miserably. And so I get out of that school, I go to college, right? At least I can say I went. It feels good. I got a tie on and I can say I went to college. It's about the last professional statement I'll make tonight. I went, and within 6 weeks, my parents, who paid for this, refinanced their house to send me to this vain attempt to manage my life, and their biggest thing was just trying to get me a high school diploma because I was going to drop out, which I still thank them for. I appreciate that, and also my mom was like, we just thought you might die. And they're probably right. They probably are right. Like out of this school that they refinanced their home for 18 months, go to college. They drop me off, move-in day at the dorm, UMBC. I'm like 45 minutes from home. It's an honors university. I'm not in the honors university, but still like to mention it's not a university. I'll give you guys a guess why. I don't know. I'm getting honest with you right now. I have no idea why I said it was an honors university. I was not a member of the honors department at all. And but it sounds better, and that's cool. 6 weeks later, they're picking me back up in the same parking lot. They just dropped me off excited. They're picking me back up with the same look on their face that they just spent whatever, to try and erase for 2 years. And I hadn't seen it the whole time I was at that school. But I took a drink, and then just like you hear people say, then the drink took me. Like I took a drink, and within a couple weeks, classes were done. I crossed that line when I was young, and when I drink, it's over. There is nothing left to do for me but continue to try to not be sober for as long as possible. And I get separated eventually. So what happens is from then until 2010, I go through just this progression of drinking and getting high and doing all kinds of ridiculous stuff, trying to manage it, trying to fix it, trying maintenance, trying this, trying that. I'll do anything but AA. I'll do anything but God. Don't talk to me about God. I believe I know what this word means. Please don't speak to me about it. I know what these people mean. I can't go there. Eventually, I'm beaten into a state where, I'm asking for help. I go to rehab. It's 2010. June of 2010, I go to rehab, I get out, I go to a halfway house, I commit to being there for a year. No car, no phone, no girlfriend. I was a willing 23-year-old dude. I literally was like, you can have my whole life, just show me how to not be the guy that I've been for my whole life. That's a deal, whatever. And they were like, go to AA. And I was like, yeah. They're like, get a sponsor. I was like, fine. Do your chores. Okay, man. Get a job, you have to be home by 5. Cool, dude, whatever. Okay, this is And so I start marching to the beat of their drum, and I start doing what they're asking me to do, which are all really nice, good things. And, I asked someone to sponsor me who had what I wanted. Now, I don't know if I've conveyed to you that possibly my idea of what I want may be just a little off. Just a tad, nothing crazy. But the first guy that drives up the driveway in a Corvette becomes my sponsor. Is it a coincidence? I don't know. But, he had 5 years sober. He had 5 years sober. He drove a vet. He had like a house and like a family. And I was just like, what? Like, that looks like something that I grew up in one of them. What's that? Like, yeah, man, I wasn't ever like, hey, did you have a spiritual experience as a result of the work outlined in the big book, sir? I didn't say that. If you have the balls to say that to someone, or the willingness to say that to someone as a new person, I think that's beautiful. And I'd strongly suggest that you do it if you can. There's a lot of people willing to sponsor you that have not had an experience in the steps. I'm not sure what they will give you. I don't know. I'm very clear on what an awakened, recovered alcoholic with it, facts about himself and a process to get you better will give you. I'm very clear on that. But not everybody in AA is like that. Not everybody in any organization anywhere is all the same, So if you have the willingness to ask that question, my experience is that it might save you a few years of pain, and if you don't, the good news for us is that God is everything, So our path is exactly what it's supposed to be. And I end up going through the steps with this guy as he went through the steps, and I can't tell him the truth. I don't mean in a fifth step. I got honest with him in a fifth step. I wrote everything down. I shared it all at this boarding school. At this boarding school, I had to write it on a piece of paper the size of a wall. And then we all walked around a room, like 18 people, and signed our initials next to the deepest, darkest secrets of everybody else that, like, we could relate to. Like, I got to AA, and I was like, well, at least they help. Like, I could do a fifth step. I can tell you that, like, weird stuff happened when I was a kid with other kids that made me question my sexuality for years. I can tell you that I've done stuff in my life that has caused me enough shame where I have physically drank at it, through it, and to get rid of it multiple nights of my life. Like, I could do that. I couldn't tell you what alcoholism was. I had no idea. I'm doing a fifth step, revealing my deepest, darkest secrets. If you ask me about alcoholism, I'm talking to you about DUI. That's all I got. All I can talk to you about is drinking. That's it. The unmanageability of my life is a direct result of my drinking. My drinking is a result of my drinking, I guess. Like, I didn't have anything else to say. It's kind of hard to, how do you can't take the first drink drunk, so what happened there? I was to learn, sadly, in a really painful way, but it ended up being, a really beautiful experience. I end up 2+ years sober. I graduate the halfway house because I must, right? I get a plaque, which is cool, and I get a year, and then I get 2 years. I get a girlfriend. She's got a year more than me, so all the old timers can just chill out and back up off me. She has a year more than me. She works at a rehab. We're a super sober couple. And what happens is I become so uncomfortable, I can't tell my sponsor the truth. Things like, hey, man, I'm hearing people talk about promises and meetings. I have no idea what they're talking about, sir. None. I'm hearing people talk about freedom. What does that word mean? I'm hearing people talk about not having the same brain that they came into AA with 2 years later. What are they talking about? What are they doing? What does the direct amends process mean? What does sponsorship really look like? What does 10 and 11 look like out of the big book? What are the directions that they gave us to do, man? I didn't have these questions. I don't know if I had the power to or not to ask them. It really doesn't matter at this point. But I didn't ask him, and I was so scared. He would say things like, Jack, how you doing? And I would just be like, oh, man. Let me just tell you how grateful I am to be sober, man. And I'm just Mr. Grateful, and I'm sharing that I'm grateful, and I'm saying that I'm grateful, and I'm faking it till I make it for 2 years. I don't know that they meant 2 years. Like, eventually it becomes lying, right? Like, eventually I'm just lying about how I feel to try and feel better. This is just what I've done my whole life. If I can convince you I'm okay, then I'm okay. No, I'm not. No. The truth is, rigorous honesty is, I'm dying inside. And I don't know it. What I know is happening is the same thing that has happened to me every single time my solution has been taken from me. I don't know that at the time. But I'm getting sober, and I'm starting to get louder thoughts, and my chest is getting tighter, and it's getting worse upstairs. And this is, yeah, of course, this is sobriety, right? Like that, I didn't know anything else. I didn't know there was anything else. Thank God there is. Because I can't. I am powerless against it. I cannot stay sober unless there is something else. So what happens to me is I'm 2+ years sober, talking about being grateful, finally back in the graces with the family, got a job, got a promotion, girlfriend, dog, apartment, home group, friends, all the stuff, everything. It's all external. I haven't told you one thing about my internal condition, right? Because my whole life has always been based externally. The unmanageability that I experienced and that I understood and that I was shown in the first step was all external. I'm fixing external stuff. It's all got to do with the drinking. So once we take the drink away, my life is manageable, right? Wrong for me. Very, very wrong. Sadly wrong. Appallingly wrong. Disturbingly wrong. Painfully wrong. In fact, when you remove alcohol and drugs from me, what you will end up with is a man that has never been so unmanageable. Is a man that has never had a thought life that has ever felt so unmanageable. A man who has an emotional condition that has never been so unmanageable. Absolute. I have the inability to manage my own thought life and my own emotional life on my own power. And when I try to, I drive myself so insane and I end up in so much pain and so alone that I must do the only thing I know I can never do again. And I don't have the power to not do it. And I'm driving north on 95 and I don't want to be. I'm 26 months sober in the middle of AA. I've been to 700+ meetings in a row. Been to a meeting every day, prayed every day, talked to sponsors. I've done the whole thing except for having actual vital spiritual experiences outlined in our text. I've done everything but have a result of the 12 steps. So the good news when I came back was that like I knew that I'd missed something really big. You know, but I only knew that because someone carried a message to me when I had a couple of days sober. So I'm driving to go get unsober, right? I've been driven by sobriety to get in a car and drive to go get unsober, even though the whole time I want to stay sober. If you understand that statement, I just want you to know that I love you. And I mean that with all my heart, because there's only some of us, there's only few people in the world that know what that is. And that is alcoholism. That is the crux of step one. That no matter how bad, what's our book say? No matter how great the necessity, how much I need to, nor the wish, how bad I want to. I cannot, the utter inability to leave it alone. I will not stay sober unless something happens to me that's vital, that's crucial, that's powerful, that's fun, that's like so juicy. It's like taking a bite of an apple and it's running down my face. It's got to deal with other people getting better and amends getting me free and fifth steps that allow me to see that everything that happened to me maybe happened to me so that you could get free. Maybe it happened to me so you could get free so that the next guy could get free so that his kids doesn't have to watch his father die. I need something like that, man. I need something that makes me want to get up in the morning, that makes me want to get out of bed, that makes me want to go to a meeting an hour early and stay an hour late, not because I'm here to hear a speaker, because I'm looking for the guy that needs help, because I know what it's like to walk shoulder to shoulder through 9-step direct amends where we might go to prison together. This is what I need. This is what Alcoholics Anonymous has given so many of us. That's incredible. I brought you guys nothing. I literally brought you guys a duffel bag and a trash bag, a couple of charges, and a thought life and a conduct with human beings that was atrocious, and that's put in nicely. And you gave me a life that would be impossible to fully repay. It's just humbling. It's just humbling. To know that there's a power that cares that much. To know that there's a process that can do that much. And to know that it's flowing through my heart. You know? And it all started with what I would have said was the worst day of my life. You know, I'm 2+ years sober. I relapse. I got to come back into the same home group. I got to do the walk of shame in front of 80 young people, and we were the sober couple, and everybody know, all you guys know the whole deal, you know. And I got to go get the white chip. And you could hear a pin drop in that room, man, because a lot of people were just like, what? I can't believe you relapsed, man. This statement is freaking hilarious. You know what I mean? Take a look at what the guy's been doing. What do you mean you can't believe it? You obviously don't understand alcoholism either, and that's fine. That's fine. Believe it, though, man. Believe it. This is the reality. That we get like a stay from that by doing what's here. Like, that's where we all should be without grace and power, as far as I see it. I'm sorry for speaking for all of you. That is where I have been without grace and power in my life. And so this is the worst day of my life, and I'm in so much pain, and the only thing I know is that there's nowhere else to go. I got nowhere else to go, man. And I'm in and out for a couple days, and I come back to my home group, and I get that 24-hour chip, and somebody sends me a speaker tape. And then they send me another one. And these 2 tapes, I'm like 4 or 5 days sober. I'm shaking. I'm so much shame. I can feel it in my spine. You know, like you're just like you can literally feel it in your bones. You just want to die. And every day I'm waking up, and it's just like, go to Baltimore with the little bit of savings I have and just go into the city and just go to oblivion, or go to ShopRite, work in the grocery store, and go to the noon meeting at the freaking man house. And it's like, I guess we'll go back to the meeting today. You know, like that's just, and like on the 5th day, somebody who ended up becoming my best friend and who got 9 years sober and who now is not sober anymore sent me a speaker tape that saved my life. You know, alcoholism is just so real, you know, and the only thing that was on this speaker tape was a man telling the truth about his experience with step 1. And I hope he did it something like I tried to just do it, that he was driven by sobriety to go get unsober, and that for years he spent in AA not understanding that that was alcoholism, right? Like, and I heard that message, and I was like, what are you talking about, man? Like, I literally rewound the tape. This was the first, like, 6 minutes of his talk, you know? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Well, you know, just like, and I felt like, I mean, something happened to me that day, you know? I've been sober since. I have been, you know? I have been way off the beam since as well. But I have been in Alcoholics Anonymous with an understanding of what I suffer from in a way. I just never knew that sobriety was my problem. I never knew that the mental obsession didn't have anything to do with drinking, except for the fact that it would lead me to a drink. I never knew that if I didn't solve my sober problem, I was never going to stay sober, period. And the last thing I had to worry about was picking up a drink. I didn't have any say in the matter anyway. It's not about choice. I had no idea. This isn't about choosing. I thought I heard that all the time. I don't know if I did or not. I know I chose to stay sober every day. Guess what? I got behind the wheel of a car I didn't want to be behind, had tears coming down my face, and continued to drive 2+ years sober without power. It doesn't matter what I'm choosing, what I'm thinking, how great my desire to stop drinking is. Without action to access power, I'm drinking again, and this is a fact. This is a fact of my experience. It might not be yours. It was definitely the people that wrote the big book. It's definitely the beginning of Alcoholics Anonymous' experience, and it's mine too. Without actions to access power, I'm a dead man walking. The message that carried to me that day opened me up, and the only reason why I was open enough to have it open me up was because of the relapse that just happened, which at that time was the worst day of my life. So again, looking back now, was it or wasn't it? Ask my wife. Ask my mom. Ask my aunt, who were taken care of after surgery. You know? Ask the men that I'm working with now. Ask the guys who are making amends to their families and coming alive. Ask the guy who just left court today who had to go for a traffic thing, ended up 12-stepping with somebody on his way out of the courtroom who he wasn't there to meet. Was that the best day of my life, or was it possibly not about me? You know? What a beautiful way to get shown how to look at the world. And not all the time, but right here, right now, in this moment with you, 100%. 100%. There's no doubt about it. You know? That I'm a vessel, that this is about being useful. This is not about how I feel. There's beautiful byproducts, and I get to feel wonderful, but this is about being useful, you know, and thank God, because if it was about how I feel, I would be in big trouble. I don't know about you guys, but I still don't get everything I want all the time, and how I feel is often at the top of my list, and it doesn't end well. So I get really, really excited about AA and really, really excited about the first step, and I want to start beating people with big books, and I go back into the noon meetings I was in, and I start telling them all they're killing people by not talking about the text, and they don't know what they're doing, and I became very arrogant and very excited and made a lot of mistakes, and I've had to make a lot of amends. And what ends up happening is I go through the majority of the steps, but not all of them, and that's not what it says to do, so I don't get the results that it says to get. And what I get is I get a call at 3 years sober. Now I'm doing a lot of 12-step work. I've made maybe 5% of my amends, which does not really constitute anything. I don't see anywhere when it's like, if you do 5% of this step, you're going to get a result. I haven't found that anywhere, you know? And I get a call at 3 years sober that's like, hey, Jack, you want to move to Los Angeles, make some money, and help people? And I was just like, finally, God, you've been waiting a long time to call me, man. But yes, of course I do. Actually, no, hold on, sir. I need to call my sponsor, and I need to pray. And the truth was, I was praying here and there, and I had a sponsor. But every time I got to the 9th step with a sponsor, I conveniently needed to get a new sponsor before I finished my 9th step. Because it just, me and the amends process, man, I made some amends in my family. I made some other amends. When it came to, like, traveling to make amends, when it came to, like, really paying people back, when it came to going facing relationships with women who I'd used and having to look them in the eye if they were willing to see me and tell them the reality of what I did to them, that wasn't happening, you know, because my conduct was still what it was. The problem is that I thought that somehow my conduct was going to change and my thought life was going to change before I made the amends to these people. And the reality of my life is, until I was beaten into a state with that conduct to go travel the country and make amends to all these people, my conduct never changed. When I did that, I'm now married in a committed relationship with a woman that I, you know, can't even save my life. She saved my life. I get this call at 3 years sober. I moved to LA for the next 3 years. I go on a money spree. I'm helping some guys. I'm in and out of meetings. I'm in AA, but not really. But my God is money, and my God is property, and my God is prestige, and I'm trying to be somebody. I would prove to the world I was important. I remember reading that in Bill's story and just being like, I would have loved to just dap you up one time, give you a hug, Bill, because I just know I get you, man. I really wanted that. What external validation does for a man as fear-driven and self-centered as me is very, very close to what like 3 beers can do. You know, like it's close, you know, for a guy that is as scared about what other people think and has been driven by the levels of fear that I have been driven by in my life, what someone else thinks of me. And the manifestation of that can be a very, very powerful thing, especially, it still can today at certain times, but with no power and nothing to do, you know, no instructions, it's driven me to do some really crazy things, you know. And the reality of my life is that by 6 years sober, I've fallen in love with a girl that I can't stay with, right? So I've fallen in love with this girl. We started dating. I left her when we were together 6 months. I left her when we were together a year. Now we've been together like a year and a half, and I don't know what's going on. I know that my whole work life is dishonest, but I'm not willing to get honest about it. And what happens is I leave Cleo again, and I leave for like 5 weeks. I don't talk to her, and I call her, and we end up getting on the phone. And I just start saying, like, Cleo, honey, you know, I don't know what's going on. I'm freaking out, and I'm living, you know, I was living like oceanfront, you know, south of Venice Beach, new Cadillac, you know, like I had gotten to where I thought I had always wanted to be. Literally, this is it, man. You know what I mean? Like, I was a dope fiend drunk from Baltimore. We are oceanfront, Playa del Rey. God is groovy. You know, like we did it, you know? And the reality is, you know, putting money in the place of a power and seeking it like that, you can get whatever you want materially, you know? What does it mean? What is it worth? You know? And where does it go? You know? Is there a heartbeat, you know, in that? And for me, what I found, the answer is no, you know? But I was lost in a delusion. I was very untreated. There's not enough time to tell that entire story. But I will say is that as I talked to Cleo that day after those years, and I started to say something like, I don't know, she had been given a lot of advice by a lot of well-meaning people in AA, but of course, whom she didn't ask for it. They just wanted to tell her about her relationship because, of course, you know how we are in AA. We just love to be the arbiter of people, whatever, and give them unsolicited advice, which I've been told is always criticism. If it's unsolicited advice, it's always criticism. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. It just is. And thank God she didn't listen to them. And thank God she had her own God. And thank God she operated intuitively. Because as I talked to her and said, I don't know what's going on, something happened. There was a long pause, and at one point, Cleo just said, do you want me to tell you? You know, and everything inside of me wanted to say, no, no. I'm making money. I'm flying my parents out here to visit me first class. I'm renting them cars. No, no. And this little pathetic, scared yes dribbled out of the left side of my mouth, you know, and I just said, yeah, you know, yeah. And she gave me this really loving, honest picture of my life and the levels of dishonesty and the layers in which I was blocked and the things that I was doing for work and the relationships that I had, and that everyone in my life was either profiting me or I was profiting them. And that I was so blocked off from my own heart that even the people who loved me the most and whom I loved the most couldn't tell anymore. And I was just like, wow. Oh. And I really couldn't say much, and I ended up going to sleep at some point that night and woke up the next day, and I sat on the edge of my bed, and my entire life for the last like 5-6 years came in front of me like a huge movie screen. And I knew that I was about to have to walk through every bit of it, or else I was going to die. You know, and I've come to learn that doesn't have to mean die physically, you know. I had been dying a spiritual death for the last few years, sacrificing principles and morals and giving away everything for $1 and for dishonesty and for property and to be looked at and for sex and for anything that felt good. I was willing to sacrifice anything that I had that was worth anything. And what that led me to do is eventually, through a series of events, get back in touch with a sponsor that at one point had tried to sponsor me, but once we got to step 9, he was too intense. He wanted me to do things like actually make direct amends, and I wanted to do things like talk about how we need to make living amends and talk about how we can get to the other ones later and talk about how all kinds of stuff is set for the directions that we're actually given to do. And so I did everything but recover from alcoholism and ended up dying in Los Angeles with every opportunity at my fingertips. And I show up back on his doorstep. I get on a plane and I fly to New Jersey and I meet this man and I go back through. I come with a written inventory and we go through 5, 6, and 7, and I write my 8-step list after my 7-step. And as I left that weekend, I made my first amends, and that was 2 weeks ago. That was 2 years ago in a few weeks. That was Halloween weekend 2 years ago. And from that day until now, I've become a completely different human being. That's the reality of what's happened to me. From that day until now, I think I just made my last direct amends. We were just up north a few weeks ago, you know, and I made another one. That list has gone from, you know, whatever it was to a lot less. But there was multiple trips back and forth across the country, multiple states. There's a current legal case, you know, that there's, you know, there are whatever needs to get done to make right what I've done needs to get done. And what happened to me is as I started, thank God for good sponsorship, you know. And when I say good sponsorship, for me, what that's been shown is a man that loves me for sure and cares about me, but that is willing to really hold my toes and my nose to the directions that are in the text and help me walk through it shoulder to shoulder, you know. And this man has walked me through hundreds of amends. I've talked to him about almost every single one before I've went and made them. And I don't know how many different places, situations. And the majority of a lot of them were to women for my conduct with them. I wasn't in relationships. I was single. And we had a discussion beforehand about how I'm not looking for anything, so it's not dishonest, which is dishonest in itself in my life, right? Like I'm doing that with a goal to use you to make myself feel better. Now, maybe if I said that, it would have been honest, right? So I now start to embark on a journey to go meet people all over the country that are people who I've taken advantage of, who I've used, the same guys that I've been living with, making money with, showed how to do what I was doing for work, involved in this scam. Now I have to go to them and make amends for the same thing I was just doing with them in their eyes just days before. And something's happened where I'm just this. So I'm coming to them and they're just like, dude, are you gonna like go talk to the feds? And are you like saying you're better than me? You know, like, is that what this is? And I was just like, no, I can just tell you what's happened. And I'm just here to tell you that what I did and how I've acted and how I've lived is wrong. And some of them are like, you showed me how to do this. And the only thing in my heart that I could, and I just had to say, you're right, I did, and it was really wrong of me to do that too. And it was incredibly selfish. And in my heart, all I could feel was just like, and now I'm really trying to show you to do this. And I don't know what else to do, And as I start to go and meet these people, Cleo came with me. This woman is incredible. This woman's sitting in the car outside of Starbucks in Denver, Colorado, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and Maryland, and California, and all over the place. While I'm inside talking to a woman that I had conduct with that was selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and incredibly arrogant and just unfair and disrespectful, And every one of these people deserved every bit of every conversation that they let me have with them about not being able to treat you with the respect, the dignity, and the integrity that you deserve as a woman and as one of God's children. You never deserve to be treated the way that I treated you as far as I see the world now. Obviously, I don't say it, but obviously that wasn't my experience then, but it is now, And I can't make amends in any different state of consciousness than the one I'm in, right? Like that's impossible. So as this process unfolds, right, as we started to travel and as we started to make amends and as, our relationship started to grow, it became really clear to me, that I really wanted to. It looks like my screen's freezing up. Are we all right?
You're good, Jack. Yep, you're good. Jack. Hey, Jack.
Yeah, can you guys hear me? Sorry, it looked like everything froze.
You're good. You're good.
Oh, sorry, it looked like everything froze. So as we started to go through this process and as my life, my outward demonstration of my life started to change before my eyes. And it's something that I always wanted to happen in AA. But it just had never happened. I always wanted to be this guy, like, just a dude that could treat people the way that he really actually wanted to. Not some like young, kind of hustlery, kind of like shifty, but also like honest and heartfelt and funny, but just a genuine human being that like was flawed and made mistakes, but also like really tried to pack into the stream of life and really tried to be a part of, like, I was never able to do that. I was never able to stay. So I was never able to do anything. What I started to see was because I never had the power to do so. And until I really did what was here, what was actually outlined, I never had the power to do it. I just really wanted to. And what starts to happen is, this April, right? Last July, we're on a trip and a 9-step amends knocks on our door at my parents' house in Maryland while we're still living in LA. And we get moved to Maryland unbeknownst to us, and I had to stay in the state of Maryland. I'll just put it that way. And Cleo went back to California and had to move all of our stuff here alone. And we've been here for a year now. And because when you start really doing what's here, there's a power that starts to flow. And there was one amends that I had on paper that I had no way of making without implicating and involving other people, whose consent I could never get. Right? There's amends that I just, there's people you can't talk to, there's stuff you can't do, and power allows that to happen, right? That's what the power of God can do. And anyway, so we've been living in Maryland for a while now, and what happens is this April, right, Cleo and I end up asking Cleo to marry me, right? Which is just insane, And I did it because there was no other thing to do. It wasn't like this, like, oh my God, and I'm freaking out and I don't know what to do. It was just like, man, do you know how incredible it would be to spend my life with a partner like the person that this woman is. And so we had this wedding planned April 4th, right? 2020. And April 4th was a rather interesting time in Maryland, as I'm sure it was in Arizona. And what ends up happening is we got all these people coming in from different places. My sponsor's going to be the officiant. He's coming up from Tennessee. And her sponsor's coming in from Colorado. And people are coming, and, you know, family. It's going to be this beautiful event. And the world gets shut down, right? So everybody's like, you know, gotta do it again, gotta do it later. Oh my God, I can't believe. And we just like stayed quiet, stayed in prayer, and we started to think about what this day was really about, you know? And it became really, like, this day is about demonstrating God's power for us. And this day, because that's why we're together. That's what's happened, period. We're both very clear on that. Both of our histories show we should not be married. We should not be honest. We should not have integrity in relationships. We have been, both of us in our own right at our own times, atrocious human beings when it came to thinking about the way somebody else feels before myself. Not happening. And also it's a day to demonstrate love, and it's for the people that really want to be there, right? So her parents are at the top of that list, and my parents. But she has a 96-year-old grandmother that lives in a nursing home in Lidditz, Pennsylvania, right? And Cleo is like very special to this woman. And I have become very close with this woman. And when someone's 96, right, like, who knows what's going to happen? So we just start to, like, think about stuff, and all of a sudden this person at my work's like, you know, you could do this, or maybe you could do this. And the next thing you know, we got, like, 8 people in 2 cars driving to Lidditz, Pennsylvania on April 4th to go get married in Cleo's grandmother's nursing home parking lot, right outside of her window, so that she can be a part of the wedding, you know? Now, I'm a guy that had to go to 197 Starbucks across the U.S. to admit what I had done to human beings, and now, through a process of direct amends, being honest in 10 and 11, actually finally acquiring enough power to practice principles, I'm standing with him. I'm crying as a woman walks around the corner of a nursing home across the grass to marry me in front of like 7 or 8 people. It's not why I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, I'm involved in the lives of other human beings in a way that I just never knew that was real. There was stuff on my first inventory that I wanted to kill myself over. I remember thinking about sexual events when I was a kid and turning bottles of liquor upside down to make them leave my mind. I remember doing that, you know? These events are now things that I lead as I take people through 5th steps in and watch the freedom come, that they are allowed to then share what they need to share in that moment to get free. And in that moment, the world turns. And it feels as though maybe this event that happened to me possibly happened so that 27 years later, I could sit in some park in wherever, in a bunch of dirt mulch chips, right? Looking at some people walking by or whatever, and share some stuff and have somebody else be able to share something and watch freedom happen. And maybe that happened to me or for me so that somebody else could get free. And maybe it really didn't happen to me at all. Maybe it happened through me for you. This is the type of perception change that happens here. That's insane, you know? I'm getting messages today about, you know, just watching the stream of life get packed into by people that I've been able to have the smallest little part of their process, you know? And knowing that because a man told me the truth, no matter what anybody thought about him, no matter how much he was, oh, he's a thumper and he's a this and all these names. Everybody wants to, you know, like they say, we form firing squads in AA. The problem is we form circles and we just shoot each other and we shoot our best member. It's just, now listen, people want to say all this stuff about him. This dude got right here with me, got me clear on what I suffered from, showed me what to do about it. And from that day until this, my life has completely transformed. And that's available to anybody who's willing to actually do it. This is not some special experience I was given for being some special guy with some special sponsor. This book literally really hasn't ever been changed. But for me, I had just never actually been through all of it and done it all. And actually done it all, you know? And I was never the guy that showed up on the corner or at the bar and said, listen, man, I know I only drank 3.5, but I'm really trying to figure out why I don't feel like I drank 44. I wasn't that dumb. But I was the guy that showed up in AA and said, well, I've done X, Y, and Z, but I've never actually done the 12 steps as they're outlined, where they're from, and I don't know why I don't feel that. Like, I just never saw the parallel, and I'm so grateful that people took the time to tell me the truth, and then they took my hand, and then they stood next to me, and they continued to walk with me. What a gift, you know, we have, and what a gift it is to be able to just hang out with you guys for however long it's been, and to tell the truth. And one of the miracles for me, for anybody who can relate to this, is that I feel no different now than when I started talking. I have said nothing now that I will need to question or worry about. I don't need to leave this room and figure out a whole bunch of stuff. If I get a little funny feeling, it will come and it will go. But like, the bondage of self has been smashed. It's still there, of course, but it has just gone so far down. This is available to all of us, you know. And I'm just so grateful to be here. Thank you for listening to me, and just thank you all.
Jack, that was fire. Like, I felt your passion. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Man, that was great. Tonight, I have asked Max to read a vision for you.
Hey everybody, Max Jim, alcoholic. Vision for you. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously, you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you. Until then.